Hey everybody, it is Tuesday. Welcome to Cooking with Evey. Almost said that wrong. How do you get your name wrong, right? Anyway, welcome to Cooking with Evey. I am so happy to see you here today. I am actually just setting up. I was busy this morning clearing out my garden and putting things into the freezer. I've got a lot of green beans that I've been freezing, as well as roasting up some tomatoes and with garlic and basil. And garlic and basil, two of the ingredients, in fact tomatoes as well, that we will be using today. Why? Because I've got a lot of them in my garden. But the good news is you don't have to grow them yourself, that they are readily available in the grocery stores right now. They are at their peak of flavor and ripeness, so they taste delicious. And the prices are pretty good for them too, right? When things are in season, the prices come down. Supply and demand. So I looked at what I had in the refrigerator, and I had some chicken, and I had these fresh ingredients. I had gotten some wonderful tomatoes. I wish I could say I grew these, but I got these from my farm share. And this monster of a tomato. So I thought it would be great to use those in this dish, as well as onion and garlic, some pinoli nuts. If you don't have pinoli nuts, you can use cashews. They work really well for this as well. But pinoli nuts have that very special flavor that's hard to replace. And of course, fresh basil. So I just picked some from my garden. This is a couple of days old actually. What I like to do is put it directly into some water right away, and I will usually just put a plastic bag loosely around the top and stick it on the counter. It doesn't last long. Basil does not like to be sitting out, picked and sitting out, but it likes even less in the refrigerator. So that is how I like to store it. Another little ingredient that I will use are some of the roasted hatch peppers that I used last week. I'm going to be adding in. If you don't have the hatch peppers, they're also in season right now. Check it out. They have a heat index, probably somewhere between a Serrano and a Poblano. And they work great in this dish. I'm just going to chop some up if you don't have that. I've also made this with jalapenos before, and you can always use red pepper flakes. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to just make a marinade for the chicken. I have 2 chicken breasts here that have thawed out and are ready to be marinated. Now, ideally, if we could marinate this for about an hour, that would be great. Hour, 2 hours. You don't want to marinate chicken overnight because if there's any acids in the marinade, it changes the texture of the meat. So a couple hours ahead of time, though, would be great. Since we're just doing the cooking program here, I'm just going to make up the marinade now, and you can just pretend that it took that long, okay? So we start with our base of a basic vinaigrette. So I have some extra virgin olive oil here. I am going to add in about, how much did I say? 2 tablespoons. Let's do that. So let me just grab, usually I just estimate, but I'll just measure it out here so that we have the right amount. Now, if you wanted to, I'm using 2 chicken breasts here. They're fairly good sized chicken breasts, as you can see. If you have smaller, or you could use 4 chicken breasts as well. I think there's enough marinade in here to go for, to use for 4. And then it would make 4 servings instead of just 2. And these are very healthy serving sizes. They could almost be cut in half and have 4 serving sizes as well. So I added in my olive oil, and now I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. So equal parts of vinegar and olive oil here. All right. And then I'm going to add in some of those hatch peppers that I told you about. So I had these roasted. I had them sitting in a little bit of garlic and olive oil, which keeps them in the refrigerator. And I'm probably going to chop up, since they're roasted, they're a little bit milder, but I'm going to chop up maybe about a tablespoon and add that in. I'll put the remainder back into my olive oil mix here. All right. And then I'm going to add in 3 cloves of garlic. These are some nice big cloves. But I like a lot of garlic, so that will work well. So, again, I got this garlic from my farm share. Delicious flavor. So happy to be using them with all of you today. Let me just take one more clove. And you'll notice that I'm smashing my garlic. Here, let me bring this a little bit closer to you so you can see. There we go. So what I do is I just take my clove of garlic, take the flat side of my chef's knife, be careful of those fingers, and give it a good smash. And what will happen is that paper, which is so hard to come off, comes right off. It also starts the process of chopping for the garlic clove, because the garlic clove is already broken up a bit. Alright, so I slice through once. I don't need to do a mince, you know, a fine mince. I'm just going to do a rough chop here. Sure, I get all the big pieces. We're going to be roasting this in with the marinade later on. You can see here the size that I have. I'm going to add that right into my marinade. All right. So I've added in my garlic now, and I just want to give it a good mix. I'm just going to use my measuring spoon here. Actually, let's see if I can find my whisk. Yeah. And we'll give it a whisk, just to incorporate the olive oil and the vinegar. So hopefully you can see here what I have. And I just have a ceramic bowl here that I am, or pan, that I'm going to use to marinate my chicken. I like to put it into a non-reactive material like the Pyrex here, or the Corningware rather, and I'm just going to pour my marinade over those chicken pieces. So you can see, there we have it. All right, so as I was saying, it would be nice. I'm just going to turn these once, twice, turn them over, so every part of the surface gets coated. Now, as I was saying, if I was doing this at home, which I am, but not on the air, I would wait for about an hour or two, let that marinate, let those flavors soak in. But in the interest of time, while that's going on, I will cut up my tomatoes. I'll put my tomatoes and my onions, all right? So, this huge tomato, I want to get about 4 cups of tomatoes in. Now, this tomato is very ripe. I see there are some soft spots on it, which I will cut out, but I'm not afraid when I see a tomato with soft spots. I know that I can just cut off those that look like they might have gotten bruised. but I know that this is nice and ripe. One of the reasons it is so soft is because it is so nice and ripe. So let me then cut down. So I cut out the inner core on the top here, and I'll show you again on the other side what I did. But I'm just going to cut down 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Let's do it 5 times. I want to get these into about anywhere from 1/2 to 1 inch chunks or cubes. All right. So here's what I have after I'm done cutting these. Let me grab another container to put these in. In fact, well, let me do this. I'll just grab another Pyrex casserole dish, put that in. All right. And that's probably about 1 cup. Now, here you can see the stem is still present. So I'm just going to go in and cut a V-shaped notch out of that. Take it right out. And this side looks fairly good. There's a little bit of a black spot on the bottom. I'm going to cut that out as well and discard that. And then I'm going to do the same as I did with the other half. Cut down, turn it 90 degrees, cut down again. And sometimes what I like to do is just tip, whole slice down and cut it again. Just see what I'm doing. Tip it down and slice it again. It's just a quick way to get more of a cube, more of an even dice. More of that cube shape. Okay, I think I'm going to need about, let's see. Give me 1 second. Lost some of my lighting here. There we go. All right, we're back. All right, so whenever I do dishes like this with the tomatoes and the garlic, it reminds me of growing up in visiting my grandmother at her house. They used to buy bushels and bushels of tomatoes during the summer. And the reason I'm not afraid to use some of these bruised tomatoes is because these bushels, they bought them very cheaply because they were extremely ripe. Some of them to the point where, you know, it looked a little sketchy how ripe they were. But they used them and they cooked them and they tasted delicious. So I know that even though some things might be a little bit overly ripe when you're cooking with them, it adds a wonderful, delicious flavor to the dish because they are that ripe. Yes, you wouldn't want to eat them raw that way. And yes, you do need to cut out some of the spots. But tomatoes, wonderful for us. Many antioxidants in there that help slow down that aging process, keep our joints nice and young. Inflammation is the leading cause of painful joints. That's what you're feeling when your joints get inflamed, right? Tomatoes also contain lycopene. Lycopene is good for many things, but one of the things that it's very good for is protecting our skin from the sun. So protecting our skin from aging, basically. Okay, so I have my tomatoes cooked up now. Wonderful. And I have my garlic cooked up. Now what I would like to do is cut up my tomato. I'm sorry, this is not a tomato. This is an onion. I'm just going to cut up that onion. All right. And again, I don't need to cut this into very small dice pieces. I'm going to cut it the exact same way I cut the tomato. And I can mix it right into that bowl with the tomato. Cut it in one direction. Now I'm going to go through, cut it in the other direction. And we have a nice coarse chunk to the tomatoes. Do the other half. Turn it. Go down. Wonderful. All right. Okay. So we now have two of those main ingredients. And now we have the main ingredient for why I call this a deconstructed basil. Why? Because, deconstructed pesto. Why? Because pesto is made with basil, lots of basil. So I'm going to be using a lot of this basil. And pesto contains basil, it contains olive oil, it contains pine nuts, which is something that we will be adding in later. Pine nuts and Parmesan cheese. So a nice way to have this dish is to serve it with a nice fresh grating of high quality Parmesan cheese. I actually have some Parmesan Reggiano here that I will grate for the top of mine. Since I don't do cow's milk, I was actually wondering if anybody knows if they make a Parmesan out of goat's milk, because that would be something that I might try. But one of my inflammatory foods is dairy, so I do try to stay away from as much dairy as possible, especially this time of year because it is high allergy season if you are allergic to ragweed, which I am. So I am avoiding dairy, especially this time of year. But in general, because it can be inflammatory. If you want to know what foods are inflammatory for you, you can test for them. And that is something that I do with my clients. It makes it a lot easier when you're looking to eliminate foods and minimize your symptoms that you're having. It could be digestive issues, it could be allergies, as I said, it could be skin, like rash. All of those symptoms can be attributed to inflammation. Chronic inflammation is now known as the leading cause of many of our diseases, such as diabetes and heart disease, obesity. So, a recipe like this helps fight that, helps us age better, helps us fight those achy joints, sleep better, so many things. If you want to find out more, just text me. I'll let you know. All right. So now we have all the ingredients that we need. Let me just grab my casserole dish. I think I'm going to get a big casserole dish for this one, which is, I forget what the measurements are on it, but it looks like 13 by 9. And let me just get a liner. So I like to use a silicone liner Makes for easy cleanups. It also makes it very easy to take out your dish when it's all done. I'm going to add in my basil here, and I'm going to leave some out. So remember I said deconstructed pesto because it has the basil, the olive oil, the garlic, lots of garlic, and the pine nuts. So we added the garlic into our marinade. I'm now going to add this leftover basil into that marinade mix and just give it a toss. Yeah. Very good. And over this bed of basil, I'm going to add my tomatoes and my onions. All right. Another pesto ingredient, olive oil. So I'm going to add a little bit more drizzle of that over my tomatoes as well. And maybe a pinch of salt and a couple of gratings of black pepper. Well, that's about a quarter teaspoon. And we'll do a couple of gratings of our. There we go. All right. I'm going to give that a little bit of a toss. Rinse my hands. And then just carefully lay or nestle, I should say nestle in, because I want to surround that chicken with my tomatoes. Let's see if I can turn this so you can see it a little bit more. There we go. All right. So I'm going to nestle it right in there. All right. And then I'm going to take the marinade and drizzle it on top. Since this marinade is going to be cooked, it doesn't matter that the chicken has been in it. It's going to get cooked along with the chicken. Normally, you wouldn't want to use a marinade for anything because of those raw juices that are in there, but this will get cooked out. Okay, so we now have our finished dish. All right, we have the deconstructed pesto, the tomatoes. We've got some onions in there too. I'm going to roast this. I preheated my oven at 400. I'm going to roast this for about 20 minutes. And it should be done at that time. I'll take another look. Depending on your oven times, you know, it might take a little bit longer than that, but I'm looking forward to tasting this. Oh, and as I said, I will be finishing it off with some fresh grated Parmesan cheese, as well as some pine nuts that I have sitting here on my stove. They've cooled down. I'm going to add these in later on just so that they stay nice and crunchy. But that will go on as I'm serving, and I will probably serve this over some cauli rice. You could use brown rice, you could use quinoa, because it'll make a nice juice. When those tomatoes cook down, those roasted tomatoes cook down, you get a nice juice that goes with it, and you want to have all of that in your meal. So I'm going to go pop this into the oven, and I will show you what the finished dish looks like when I take it out. I'll just post a picture of it later on. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. If you want to learn more about the benefits of eating an anti-inflammatory diet, by all means contact me. You can just private message me or leave a question in the comment section, and I will let you know how this comes out. If you make this recipe, please let me know as well. All right, until next week, stay healthy. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.